Everyone keeps asking if Max is going to leave, but the real decisive answer already has a name: the 2026 Power Unit. And in this video, I'm going to break down the three angles that will turn rumor into reality, or shut the whole story down for good, and which signs in the opening races you actually need to watch closely. Because what happens in 2026 isn't just another silly season. It could redraw who runs Formula One for years to come. If Red Bull nails its Red Bull Ford Power Unit, the dynasty continues. If it misses, the entire driver market gets shaken up. And then contracts and conversations stop being rumors and become real decisions. Let's start with the first point: Max's contract. What we know, and more importantly, what almost nobody really knows. Publicly, the deal runs until 2028. Behind the scenes, there's a persistent rumor about exit clauses, performance triggers that, if activated, could open doors. Red Bull's official line is clear. Oliver Mintzlaff says he's not afraid of any performance clauses. The public message is simple and strategic: loyalty, investment in the new engine structure, the Red Bull family. It's the perfect medicine to calm fans and sponsors. But on the other side, there's caution. Verstappen's personal team, led by Raymond Vermeulen, says they're hearing good things about the engine, and immediately adds, what is good, what is the reference? That sentence is the clue. It's not paranoia, it's risk management. They know that one premature statement can burn valuable options. So what's the truth? It's likely there is some form of clause, but it only becomes meaningful if two things happen. First, Red Bull is clearly behind at the start of 2026, and second, that disadvantage lasts long enough to convince the driver and his inner circle that the team can't react quickly. In other words, the clause is just leverage. It is not by itself an automatic trigger. And that takes us to the heart of the story: the power unit. Keep this in mind. Clause plus initial performance plus recovery speed equals decision. Now the engine. Red Bull is taking power unit manufacturing in-house with Ford in 2026. Strategically, it's a high-risk, high-reward move. Full control over the power unit means unprecedented chassis engine integration. Big potential for aero gains and efficiency. But taking it inside also means facing a very steep development curve. Reliability, scalability, and production efficiency are massive challenges. Factory visits and dynos running flat out have impressed Verstappen. Ben Hodgkinson says the hardware and the level of detail are impressive. Vermeulen's been told good things. But all the gold in the world is useless if the car turns up slow on race weekends or can't survive 300 kilometers. What's the real tipping point here? It's not just whether the engine is good out of the box, it's whether Red Bull Ford can quickly close gaps and fix problems. The decisive point Max's manager talks about is iteration speed. How many updates the factory can design, build, and bolt onto the car before enduring those first 5 or 6 races. If that cadence is high, a shaky start can be turned around. If it's slow, internal and external perception shifts, and then the clauses and conversations gain real weight. And there's a second layer: the reference. What does good actually mean? For Vermeulen, good is purely relative to rivals. If the new Red Bull power unit is only marginally off but reliable, team and driver have room to fight back. If it's clearly behind, 0.2, half a second, and fragile, the urgency spikes. With no public benchmark data, 2026 becomes a short, brutal evaluation window. Notice what's happening. This is a game of signals, and signals are exactly what we'll map out in practical terms in a moment. Before that, we need the third piece of the puzzle: the driver market. Charles Leclerc steps in here as a multiplier. He's impatient. He said, "It's now or never." His agent, Nicola Todt, has already made it clear that Leclerc can look elsewhere if Ferrari doesn't deliver. So if Max moves, Leclerc is a natural name to fill that gap. If Max stays, Leclerc becomes a prime target for Aston Martin or any other team that climbs a step. And it's not just Leclerc. Mercedes and Aston Martin, teams with the pulling power to attract top names, have kept lines of communication open. Friendly talks, visits, testing the water. Nobody has a contract ready to announce tomorrow, but everyone has a plan B. That ramps up the pressure on Red Bull. It's not enough to be competitive. They also need to look committed to staying competitive. Back to the main thread, 3 very real perspectives will decide whether today's rumors become tomorrow's reality. Let's open each of them clearly and then close with practical scenarios you can actually use to read 2026. Perspective 1, the Red Bull Ford Power Unit. Key metric: relative performance gap and reliability in the opening races. Red Bull needs clear signs of fast progress. They don't need perfection from the first weekend, just convincing proof that upgrades come quickly and they work. Perspective 2. The clauses in Verstappen's contract. Key metric: internal atmosphere and public narrative. If Red Bull's management can project confidence and back it up with funding, a strategic role for Max, a credible upgrade roadmap, any clause becomes irrelevant. If the messaging falls flat, the clause starts to matter in practice. Perspective 3. The driver market. Key metric: real, immediate alternatives for Max and Leclerc's situation. If there's a top seat open at Mercedes, Aston Martin, even Ferrari in an extreme scenario, the cost of leaving drops. Without clear alternatives, staying put is the rational choice. Now to the part everyone is waiting for. Realistic scenarios and the on-track signs that will actually show, race by race, which path we're heading toward. Scenario A: Red Bull nails the power unit. Verstappen stays. Probability: high. Track signals: competitive lap times already in the first 3 races. Low failure rate. Fast updates that clearly improve the car. A confident tone coming out of Milton Keynes and from Max himself. Result: driver market freezes. Leclerc probably stays at Ferrari, or only becomes a target if Aston Martin really steps up. Scenario B: early problems but quick recovery. Verstappen waits until mid-season and then stays. Probability: moderate. Signals: an initial gap, 1 or 2 failures, but a strong development rate. Parts and updates that steadily cut the deficit over the first 6 to 8 races. In this scenario, the clause likely exists, but won't be triggered because confidence in a technical turnaround wins out. Scenario C: persistent issues and slow recovery. Clause activated, exit on the table. Probability: low to moderate. Harsh signs: Red Bull clearly loses out to rivals in the first 3 races, multiple power unit problems with no quick fix, and strategy or organizational errors that hint at an inability to respond fast. At that point, talks with Mercedes or Aston get serious, and market options turn a move into a real possibility. Scenario D: 2026 regulations, not fun for Max. Cutting back his schedule or walking away from the sport. Probability: low. Signals: repeated frustrated comments from Max about the rules, not directly tied to engine performance. This is the more personal wildcard. Life outside F1, projects, and overall satisfaction all start to matter. Remember this: none of these outcomes are set in stone. They're probabilities based on 3 variables we can actually watch. And here are the actionable signals, race by race, that you can follow to know which track we're on. First 2026 race weekend: relative pace per lap versus Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston. Not just qualifying, but race pace too. If Red Bull is competitive already from practice, that's a strong sign. DNFs or failures related to the power unit in the first 3 races. A one-off issue can be forgiven. 3 barking dogs in a row, and the situation starts to turn critical. Internal and external communication. If Red Bull publishes a clear upgrade roadmap and Max shows up at the factory looking relaxed and positive, that's a powerful political signal. If we start hearing conditional language from Max or his manager, that's a warning sign. Market movement. If Mercedes or Aston Martin begin formally testing the waters with proposals for 2027, the risk of a move grows. Watch for concrete actions more than loose words. Formal meetings, image management offers, roles outside the cockpit, and there's a less obvious layer that many overlook. Ford's role. It's not just technical input. It's also financial commitment and the ability to scale production. Ford isn't just a sticker on the car. The level of Ford's involvement in decisions and money will determine how much time and how many resources Red Bull has to fix problems. If Ford keeps pushing cash and support, the recovery curve gets smoother. If the deal is more lightweight, Red Bull's room to maneuver shrinks. Now a few connections, almost nobody highlights. Becoming an engine manufacturer shifts the power balance inside the team. Before, Red Bull depended on a partner like Honda. Now it has control. That changes the internal negotiation with the driver. Management can offer more than just a fast car. They can offer technical influence, a say in decisions, even roles beyond the cockpit. Remember Verstappen's line, "It's not only about F1, a lot of things have to come together." That's code, roles beyond the car, and long-term stability matter, and finally, a political read. Mintzlaff's rhetoric serves 2 purposes: to calm and to pressure. It calms sponsors and fans. It pressures rivals and even the driver to buy into the internal vision. Verstappen's camp taking a cautious stance is perfectly rational. Keep all options open until the results are in. It's the classic balance between public confidence and private prudence. Closing the loop. What did I promise at the start? The three perspectives that actually matter: power unit, contract clauses, and driver market. And the practical signs to watch in the first races of 2026. Now you've got a map to interpret every quote, every failure, and every upgrade. 2026 is a short evaluation window. If Red Bull Forge shows fast progress and strong reliability, the whole story dies down. If not, the clause and the conversations become real alternatives. And then we might see a move that reshapes F1. This isn't just drama. It's strategy, reaction time, and internal politics. To wrap it up with an image, imagine Formula One as high-speed chess. In 2026, several moves will hit the board at once: a new engine, contracts with hooks, and a few restless pieces like Leclerc. A strong Red Bull Ford launch shuts down lines of attack. A weak start opens the board for a huge gambit in the driver market. And the final line that sums it all up: the most important race for Max's future might not be a single Grand Prix. It's the first three races of 2026. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the breakdowns of those opening 2026 races, because that's when we'll measure the signals and tell you, live, which way the board is tilting.